On the night everything in my life shattered, my phone rang at exactly 12:03 a.m. I was half asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket and surrounded by unopened bills when the vibration jolted me upright. The number on the screen was the hospital. I answered with a trembling, "Hello?" expecting some mix-up, some clerical mistake, something normal people dealt with. Instead, a frantic voice said, "Is this Mrs. Keisha Robinson? Your husband has been in a severe car accident. He's critical. You need to come right now." My breath left my body. Darnell? Critical? I didn't think. I didn't question. I grabbed my purse, keys, and the sweater draped over the couch. The cold air slapped me in the face as I ran out, the world blurry, my heartbeat exploding in my ears. I drove through the empty streets of Atlanta like a woman possessed, whispering prayers between gasps. "Lord, please, please don't take him. Not like this. Not tonight." When I burst through the hospital doors, the night staff snapped to attention. A nurse at the front desk looked up, already expecting me. "Mrs. Robinson? Follow me. He's in surgery." She gestured toward a hallway glowing sterile white. I ran, not walked, ran. My mind replayed every argument, every moment of distance, every small sign that something was off, but nothing prepared me for what happened next. As I neared the double doors of the operating room, the ones with the glowing red light above them, someone grabbed my arm, hard. I yelped and spun around, but the woman held tight. Her badge said IMANI, RN, Critical Care. Her eyes were wide with terror. "Don't go in there." "What? My husband?" "Keisha, listen to me." She pulled me into the dimly lit locker room beside the OR, shutting the door quietly behind us. "This is a trap." A trap? I blinked, chest heaving, trying to understand. Imani leaned close, whispering like someone whose life depended on it. "You were never supposed to make it out of that operating room alive." My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might faint. "What are you talking about? My husband is in surgery. They called me." Imani shook her head violently. "He's not in surgery, and he sure ain't hurt." She pointed toward a tiny crack in the door, just wide enough to see through. "Look." Hands trembling, I leaned forward, and my whole world turned upside down. There, through the crack, I saw Darnell, my husband, walking out of the operating room. Walking! Laughing. Not a scratch on him. Beside him was a woman I recognized instantly, even though I had never met her. Shanice, the same woman whose number I once confronted him about, the one he said was a coworker who needed rides. She wasn't dressed like no coworker tonight. She was dressed like a mistress who knew she had won. And on Darnell's other side was Dr. Washington, the same surgeon who had shaken my hand earlier during a routine appointment and told me I was in good health. They were talking like three demons celebrating a successful ritual. Darnell chuckled, voice low and wicked. "So she'll sign the consent form when she gets emotional enough?" Dr. Washington nodded. "Of course. She'll be hysterical. Just a signature. Then we prep her, sedate her, and accidents happen during emergency interventions," he shrugged casually, "especially when the patient has a $3 million life insurance policy." Shanice smirked, placing her manicured hand on Darnell's chest. "And once she's gone, baby, we'll finally have the life we deserve." Darnell kissed her. Kissed her right outside the room where I was supposed to die. A sound escaped my throat, a soft, broken gasp, and I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. The taste of betrayal flooded my tongue, bitter and nauseating. My hands shook violently. I pressed them against the lockers to steady myself. Imani whispered, "You believe me now?" My legs felt like water. Why are you helping me?" "Because what they're doing ain't just evil, it's criminal, and I'm not letting them kill another black woman and call it a complication during surgery. Not tonight." I swallowed hard, my breath shaky. "What do we do?" Imani took a deep breath. "You're going to act. Cry, shake, do whatever you have to. Make them believe you're heartbroken and confused. Keep them distracted. While you do what?" Her jaw tightened. While you sneak to the basement server room, the security footage of him walking in will be on the feeds. We need that evidence or they'll spin the story their way. Me? I whispered, stunned. Why can't you? Because if I disappear, they'll notice. But you? They expect grief, not suspicion. A heavy silence fell. Images of Darnell laughing, kissing that woman, plotting my death filled my head like poison. Fear was there, but rage was louder. Okay, I whispered. Let's do it. Imani squeezed my shoulder once. Good. When you walk out of this room, Keisha, you cry like your entire life just fell apart. You give the performance of a lifetime. I closed my eyes, inhaled deeply, and let the rage transform into trembling grief. I stepped out of the locker room and staggered back into the hallway, sobbing, wailing, letting the sound echo off the cold hospital walls. Darnell turned at the sound, his face shifting into fake sympathy. Perfect. Imani whispered from behind the door, "Showtime." And as I collapsed into a chair, shaking like a widow, I knew one thing for certain. They thought they were hunting me, but they had no idea they just created the wrong woman's enemy. As I cried into my hands, pretending to be broken, I felt someone's eyes watching me from down the hall. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. The moment I felt those eyes on me from down the hall, every hair on my arm stood straight up. I didn't lift my head right away. I couldn't risk breaking character. My shoulders shook as I kept sobbing into my hands, letting the grief roll out of me like waves. But inside, every muscle in my body pulled tight, bracing, watching, listening. "Keisha?" Darnell's voice shifted into that fake soft tone he used whenever he was lying. "Baby, I'm so sorry you had to see me like this." I let out a wail loud enough to echo. Good. Let him think I was too broken to hear the cracks in his performance. Shanice stood beside him, gently rubbing his back like the supportive partner she wasn't supposed to be. Her eyes glimmered with a smugness that made my stomach twist. She whispered something into his ear and he nodded. Then footsteps echoed again, the same slow, careful steps from down the corridor. I lifted my head just enough to see a reflection in the glass window across from me. A tall silhouette leaned partly out of sight near the corner. I couldn't see his face, but his posture told me everything. He wasn't staff. He wasn't family. And he definitely wasn't friendly. He was watching me. I swallowed, my throat tight, tears still streaming. I had to stay in the moment. I had to be the grieving, naive wife they needed me to be. "Can I see him?" I choked out, my voice desperate and trembling. "Please, Darnell, tell me they're doing everything they can for you." His expression softened, performer to performer. "Baby, they're doing their best." That lie slid off his tongue like warm syrup. I nearly laughed. Nearly. Instead, I covered my face again, shaking harder. Imani slipped out from the hallway behind them, blending into the shadows. She shot me one quick look, a tiny nod. It was time. I collapsed forward, almost sliding out of the chair, my sobs turning uncontrollable. I can't do this. I need a bathroom. I'm going to be sick." Shanice stepped back, clearly annoyed. "She's gonna slow this down," she muttered under her breath. Darnell leaned toward her. "Let her go. She has to sign eventually. The more emotional she gets, the better." He didn't even whisper it, like he was planning a dinner menu, like my death was just another item on the checklist. My chest tightened with so much rage, I almost forgot to tremble. I pushed myself up with weak legs, wobbling like I could barely stand. Darnell rushed forward like he cared, hands out. "No," I cried, flinching away. Just let me breathe. Let me breathe." He hesitated, then nodded with fake concern. "Go ahead, baby. We'll talk when you're ready." I stumbled down the hall, dragging my hand along the wall for support. I didn't dare look at the man watching me, but I could feel him shift as I passed, like a predator adjusting for the chase. The moment I turned the corner, I let my sobs quiet just enough for my breath to steady. I had seconds, maybe less, before the wrong eyes noticed I didn't head to the bathroom. Imani appeared from behind a cart of medical supplies. She moved fast, slipping a staff jacket over my shoulders and pushing a surgical mask into my hand. Basement! Take the service elevator at the end of this hall. Go to level B2. The server room's down a corridor marked restricted access. I nodded quickly. Imani, someone's following me. Her jaw tightened. I saw him. I think he's one of Dr. Washington's bodies. Don't stop. Don't look back. And whatever happens, keep acting. I walked away, mask in place, jacket zipped. My heart pounded so hard it rattled my ribs. Halfway down the hall, a sharp voice called out, "Ma'am, you're not supposed to be here." I froze. Slowly, I turned. A man in scrubs but no badge stood only 20 feet away. The same silhouette earlier. His eyes were scanning me like he was trying to confirm something. I stammered, letting fear drip from my voice. "I'm looking for the bathroom. The nurse told me." He stepped closer. "This is not the way to the restroom." "I'm lost," I whispered. His smile didn't touch his eyes. "I can help you." That was exactly what he wanted. I stepped back, shaking my head. "No, I'm okay. I just need a minute." He stepped closer again. Then the fire alarm tore through the hospital, shrill and deafening. Red lights strobed across the walls, alarms ringing through every corridor. Imani did it. The man jerked around, startled. Staff poured into the hallway, shouting and guiding people towards exits. The chaos gave me cover. I turned sharply and shoved through a group of techs, moving so quickly I nearly tripped. I reached the service elevator and slammed the button. The man fought his way through the crowd, pushing people aside, trying to keep me in sight. "Hey, you! Stop!" The elevator doors opened. I threw myself inside and hit the button for B2. He lunged. The doors closed inches before he reached me. My whole body sagged as the elevator descended. My breath shook out of me in ragged waves. The lights flickered as I reached the basement level, and the temperature dropped. The metallic smell of old machinery filled the air. I stepped out. It was quiet. Too quiet. I moved down the dim corridor until I saw a door labeled Restricted Access, Server Room. My hands trembled as I typed the access code Imani whispered earlier. The door clicked open. Inside, the room was cold, filled with humming racks of servers, blinking lights and wiring that snaked across the floor like vines. I pulled out my phone, breath uneven, and followed Imani's instructions to access the monitors. And there it was, footage of Darnell walking in, laughing, perfectly healthy. I snapped picture after picture, my hands racing with fury. I had them. I had all of them. But the moment I turned toward the door, I heard it. The slow, heavy click of the lock turning. Then it opened, and Shanice stepped in, followed by Dr. Washington, both smiling. Behind them walked Darnell, his expression twisted with fury. "You really thought," he said slowly and coldly, "that you could outsmart us?" I stumbled back, my grip tightening around my phone. "I have everything I need, all of it. You're going to prison." Dr. Washington laughed. "No, dear, you have nothing." Shanice raised her hand. She held my phone, the broken pieces of it. She dropped them on the floor and ground her heel into them. Darnell stepped closer, cracking his knuckles. "You should have just signed the papers." I backed into the server rack, fear and fury warring inside me. They thought they cornered me? They thought this was the end? But they didn't notice the tiny red light blinking in the corner, the one connected to the room's camera. They didn't realize someone else was watching. And as Darnell lunged for me, I heard footsteps pounding down the hallway. Someone was coming. Someone who wasn't on their side.
I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my son's face, cold, irritated, as if I were the one causing inconvenience by being hurt. My daughter-in-law's smirk replayed in my mind like a cruel loop. And my brother's words, "If you don't handle this, I will," echoed louder than anything else. By morning, my black eye had darkened to an ugly violet. I tried covering it with makeup, but nothing hid the truth. The truth was loud, it was swollen, it was screaming. I was heating water for tea when the front door opened. My son walked in, not even looking at me, talking loudly on the phone about some office contract. My daughter-in-law followed behind him, scrolling her phone, her expression sharp and annoyed, like I was just another piece of furniture cluttering her life. When my son hung up, he finally glanced at me. "Mom, why are you still acting dramatic? It was a small push. Don't blow it out of proportion." A small push. My hands trembled around the kettle. Before I could respond, my daughter-in-law let out a laugh. Short, mocking. "She's being oversensitive again. It's not our fault she can't handle discipline." Discipline. I felt something inside me crack, not loudly, quietly, like the breaking of a thin twig just before a wildfire begins. There was a knock. My son frowned. "Who's that this early?" He opened the door and froze. My brother walked in, jaw tight, eyes blazing. Behind him were two people I didn't expect to see at all. My niece, recording something on her phone, and my sister-in-law, holding a file. My daughter-in-law straightened, suddenly stiff. My son tried to sound calm. "Uncle, this isn't necessary." My brother cut him off with a single raised hand. Then he turned toward them, not me. "I came because last night your mother sent me a picture of her face, and I wanted to see if either of you had the spine to admit what you did." My son's face turned red. "She tripped. You're believing her side without—" Again, my brother lifted his hand. But this time, he pointed at my daughter-in-law. "Did you teach her respect by hitting her?" My daughter-in-law opened her mouth, but no words came out. The confidence from the birthday party was gone. Completely gone. My niece stopped recording only long enough to say, "We heard everything last night. Every word." My son spun toward me, shocked. "You called them? You brought them into our private matters?" I shook my head slowly. "I didn't call anyone." My brother stepped forward and spoke for me. "She didn't have to. I've known her my whole life, and I know the difference between an accident," his eyes hardened, "and abuse." The room fell into a suffocating silence, and then my sister-in-law opened the file in her hands, laid the papers neatly on the dining table, and slid them toward my son. He looked down, read the heading, and his face went completely pale. I didn't have to look. I already knew what it was, but the look on his face told me one thing clearly. He never expected I had the strength or support to do this. And that was the moment everything in the house shifted, even before a single word was spoken.
My son's fingers hovered above the papers, as if touching them would burn him. His lips tightened, and he swallowed hard. My daughter-in-law leaned over his shoulder, scanning the documents, her face drained of color. This is ridiculous," she whispered, but her voice trembled. My brother folded his arms. No. What's ridiculous is watching your mother hide bruises for months while you pretend not to see them. I felt my breath catch. Months. He knew. He had known longer than I thought. My sister-in-law stepped closer, speaking gently but firmly. These are protective measures. She isn't alone anymore. If either of you raises your hand again, verbally, physically, emotionally, there will be legal action. Immediate. My son finally snapped. Mom, how could you do this? Filing complaints? Getting the family involved? You're blowing this out of proportion. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just looked at him. Really looked at him. How did you become someone who thinks hurting your own mother is a small matter? My voice came out soft, but it sliced through the room like a blade. He opened his mouth, but no justification came this time. My daughter-in-law stiffened. How dare you bring people here to embarrass us? You're twisting the story. I turned toward her. You pushed me so hard I fell. Then you smiled at my bruised face. And you let my son believe you had the right to discipline me. Her jaw clenched. She didn't deny it. My niece lifted her phone again. Just for record keeping, she said calmly. My daughter-in-law recoiled. Stop recording! You can't! You're in my grandma's house, my niece replied, and we're documenting everything for her safety. My son finally lost patience. He slammed his hand on the table. This is my house. My brother's laugh was low and dangerous. No, it isn't. The room fell silent again. Sharp, heavy. My brother walked towards the wall where the framed house papers hung. He tapped the glass. This house is in your mother's name, bought with her savings, built from her pension, and your father's insurance. You live here because she allowed you to. My son blinked, stunned. He had forgotten, or chosen to ignore it. My brother turned to me. Tell them, he said softly. I nodded. This house is mine. I let you stay because I thought family should support each other. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from relief. But support does not mean suffering. My daughter-in-law suddenly stepped back, as if the ground beneath her had disappeared. So what? Are you throwing us out? My brother answered before I could. That depends on how you behave next. My niece paused her recording, but kept the phone ready. The threat wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was real, and it landed. My son looked between all of us, his mother, his uncle, his aunt, his own child holding a phone, and something inside him finally cracked. He sank into a chair. For the first time since this began, he looked small. But my daughter-in-law, she wasn't ready to give up control. She stepped forward with a cold, defiant stare. You think you can scare me? You think your family can take me down? You don't know who I am. My brother raised an eyebrow. Oh, we know exactly who you are. My sister-in-law opened another envelope, thicker than the first, and she placed it on the table. And when my daughter-in-law saw what was inside, her smirk vanished completely. My daughter-in-law's eyes widened as she stared at the stack of documents spilling from the second envelope. Bank statements, screenshots, transfers, receipts. My sister-in-law tapped the top page. This is 6 months of financial activity linked to accounts under your maiden name. A chill spread across the room. My son frowned. What is this? My daughter-in-law tried to snatch the papers, but my sister-in-law pulled them back with calm precision. We made copies, she said. Plenty. My daughter-in-law's voice cracked with anger. You had no right. We had every right, my brother cut in sharply. When someone is financially abusing a family elder, we investigate. My son's head snapped toward his wife. Financially? What? Shanice, what is he talking about? She swallowed. Once. Hard. My niece quietly turned her phone's camera back on. My daughter-in-law's jaw clenched. I was just managing her money, helping her. She's old. She forgets things. Old? I repeated softly. My heart squeezed, not from pain, but something colder. That's convenient considering you used my ATM card more times than I did. My son gasped. Wait, you took her card? She glared at me. You said I could handle the groceries. Groceries? My brother scoffed. Then why are the charges from jewelry stores, salons, designer boutiques? The color drained from her face. My son stood abruptly, panic creeping into his eyes. Tell me this is a lie. Tell me you didn't steal from my mother. She whipped around to face him. I did everything for us, for this house, for our future. She doesn't need all that money. She doesn't even spend it. Silence, the kind that exposes everything. My voice was steady. I wasn't angry that you took the money. I was angry that you believed you had the right to. My son staggered back, confusion warping into disbelief. But why would she? We're family. My brother stepped closer to him. Because she felt entitled, and because you let her. My son opened his mouth, but nothing came out. My daughter-in-law glared at all of us like a cornered animal. You think you can kick me out? You think I'll just go quietly? No, I'm not leaving. This is my home too. Before anyone could respond, she lunged toward my son's arm, grabbing him like a shield. Say something, she hissed at him. Tell them they can't do this. Tell them. But he didn't move. He didn't defend her. He didn't even look at her. Instead, he stared at the documents on the table, the bruises on my face, the silent strength of his own family standing around him. Slowly, he pulled his arm from her grip. Pack your things, he whispered. Her head jerked back. What did you just say? Pack your things. This time louder, clearer, final. My daughter-in-law's lip curled. You think you've won today? A cracked in her voice. This isn't over. My niece stepped forward, lifting her phone. Oh, she said calmly. It is. And she pressed play on a recording none of us had heard yet. The audio crackled for a second before the voices became unmistakably clear. My daughter-in-law's voice, sharp, cold, unfiltered. She's old. She won't even notice. And if she does, I'll cry and say she's confused. It's easy. My son flinched. His shoulders stiffened as the recording continued. Then came her laugh, light, cruel, confident,
I swear, once we get the rest of the money, I'm putting her in a home. I'm done pretending to like her." A stunned silence rippled through the room. My son's face drained of color as he whispered, "You said that? About my mother?" But the recording wasn't finished. My daughter-in-law's voice dropped into a hushed, venomous tone. "The faster she's out of the picture, the better. I already told the insurance guy we'll need the paperwork ready. Once she's gone, we're set." The room erupted. My sister-in-law gasped. My brother swore under his breath. My niece took a step closer to me instinctively. But my son, he stood perfectly still, as if rooted to the floor by betrayal. My daughter-in-law lunged for the phone again. "Turn that off! You don't know what you're—" My niece twisted away with practiced ease. "You really thought I wouldn't keep backups." My daughter-in-law's breathing became wild, erratic. "That recording is illegal. You can't use that." My brother crossed his arms. "It's legal when you recorded it in front of a room full of people who heard you say that exact same thing." She froze. He was right. No lies, no gaslighting, no escape. My son finally spoke, his voice trembling. "How long? How long were you planning this?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence told the truth. My son looked at her like he was seeing a stranger, a dangerous one. "You were gonna hurt her. You were actually going to hurt my mother?" His voice cracked in a way I had never heard before. Then he collapsed into a chair, burying his face in his hands. My mother's instincts kicked in and I reached for him, but my daughter-in-law slapped my hand away. "Don't touch him. He's only acting upset because you all pushed him into it." My sister-in-law stepped between us like a shield. "No, he's upset because you've been exposed." My daughter-in-law's eyes darted around the room, desperate for someone, anyone to take her side. But nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody defended her. She was alone, completely and utterly alone. Suddenly, she straightened her posture, wiped her eyes, and forced a cold smile onto her lips. "Fine," she said through clenched teeth. "Throw me out. But when the truth comes out, and it will, all of you will regret this." She turned on her heel and stormed down the hallway. But halfway to the door, she stopped. Her shoulders tensed, her head tilted slightly, and without turning around, she said, "By the time you realize what I've already done," her voice dripped with malicious satisfaction, "it'll be too late." A chill swept through the room. My son stood up abruptly. "What does that mean? What did you do?" But she didn't answer. She only opened the front door and walked out, letting it slam behind her. The silence afterwards was deafening. My niece whispered, "Should we follow her? Call the police?" My son shook his head, panic flooding his face. "No," his voice cracked. "We need to check Mom's accounts, right now." Because whatever she meant felt like the beginning of something far worse. I didn't know fear could move through a house like smoke, thick, choking, invisible, but everywhere at once. As soon as my daughter-in-law slammed that door, something shifted in all of us. Even the air felt carved with tension. The rest of the family stood frozen, but my son wasn't waiting another second. He rushed to the dining table, grabbed his laptop, and flipped it open with trembling hands. "Mom, sit with me," he said. His voice was hollow, and his eyes were wide with the kind of terror a man feels only when his whole world starts tilting. I sat beside him, my heart thudding against my ribs. Everyone gathered around us, my brother, my niece, my sister-in-law, silent, bracing. My son typed in his bank login. Please let me be wrong," he whispered. But when the dashboard loaded, a strangled sound escaped his throat. I felt my stomach drop as the screen reflected back at us. 2 withdrawals, large withdrawals. Not small, accidental, explainable ones. No, these
were devastating. $18,000, $27,500, both gone within the last 6 hours. My son's voice cracked. That was our savings, the emergency fund, everything we were using to pay down the mortgage. My niece leaned in. Click account details. He clicked. And the truth landed like a hammer. Transferred to an account under my daughter-in-law's name. The timestamp? Just 20 minutes before she walked out the front door. My brother whispered a curse under his breath. She cleaned you out before she played that little poor me act. My son shot up from the chair so fast it almost toppled backward. He paced the room, running both hands through his hair, shaking his head violently. I can't believe this. I can't. How could she do this? How could she steal from me? From our kids? I stood slowly, placing a hand on his arm. Baby, look at me. He froze, chest heaving. You didn't fail. You were betrayed, I said softly. His face crumpled, but before he could speak, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out instinctively, expecting maybe one of the neighbors or a cousin checking in, but my blood ran cold. A text from an unknown number. Check your mailbox. Before midnight. Or the real damage starts. My breath hitched. The room spun a little. What is it? My niece asked, stepping closer. I handed her the phone. Her eyes widened. Oh no. This is her. It has to be her. My brother snatched the phone next. She's trying to intimidate you. We shouldn't go out there. But I felt something inside me settle. Something sharp. Something steady. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. I was tired of being scared. I said quietly, she wants me to panic, but the only way to stop someone like her is to face what she thinks I can't handle. My son grabbed my wrist. Mom, no. What if she left something dangerous? She might have, which is why I'm not going alone. My brother nodded immediately. Let's go. I'm right here. We stepped outside, the night thick and heavy around us. The porch light flickered, something it rarely did. My niece followed behind us despite my protests. The mailbox sat at the end of the driveway, dark and still. A normal object, made sinister simply because her shadow lingered over everything now. My brother reached it first. Let me open it. He pulled the handle. Inside was a single manila envelope. My niece gasped softly. It's addressed to you. My name was written in my daughter-in-law's handwriting, looping and perfect. A cruel signature. My brother held up the envelope. Do you want me to open it? No, I said. I need to see it myself. I opened it with steady fingers. Inside were papers, legal-looking ones, copies. Dozens of them. The first one nearly made my knees buckle. A loan application. With my forged signature. My niece snatched another page. This is a credit card opened in your name. My brother muttered a curse under his breath. This woman planned this for months. But the page at the bottom of the stack, the page that chilled me to the bone, was a notice of foreclosure proceedings, filed 36 hours earlier. On my house. My house. My legacy. My children's safe place. My sanctuary. My son staggered backward. I don't understand. Why would she do this? Why go this far? But I understood. I understood perfectly. Because some people don't destroy you for money. They do it for power. And when they can't control you anymore, they try to ruin you. We have to go to the police, my niece said urgently. We will, I said. But first, I need to know what else she set in motion. As we headed back in Clyde, my sister-in-law was standing at the window, pale-faced. What's wrong? I asked. She swallowed hard. She's not gone, she whispered. She's across the street, sitting in her car, watching the house. The entire room stilled. I moved to the window. There she was. My daughter-in-law. Engine running, headlights off, staring at my front door with an expression that wasn't anger. It was calculation. And when she saw me watching her, she didn't flinch. She didn't hide. She smiled. A slow, chilling, deliberate smile. Then she held up her phone and tapped the screen twice. My phone buzzed instantly. A new message. 4 words. You haven't seen everything. And right then, a deep instinctual dread settled into my bones. Whatever she had planned, we were only at the beginning.
I didn't sleep that night. None of us did. Every light in my house stayed on, every curtain stayed open, and every shadow made the room tighten with fear. My daughter-in-law stayed parked across the street for nearly an hour before finally driving away, but the damage she left behind didn't go with her. It clung to the walls. It seeped into the floorboards. It settled in all of us. By dawn, I felt like I had aged 20 years. My son sat at the kitchen table with his head in his hands. He hadn't moved since 4 a.m. My brother paced like a caged animal. My niece had dozed off on the couch, still holding the envelope like she needed to guard it with her life. When the sun finally crept over the trees, my son lifted his head. "Mom," he whispered, "we have to go to the bank as soon as they open." "I know," I said, "we will." But just as I poured myself a cup of coffee with hands that wouldn't stop trembling, someone knocked on the door. 3 sharp, deliberate knocks. Everyone froze. My brother reached the door first and peeked through the side window. His shoulders dropped a little. "It's the police," he said. 2 officers. My son exhaled shakily. Finally, maybe they can help us. But when I opened the door, everything inside me twisted. Both officers stood stiffly. Their expressions weren't concerned or sympathetic. They were cautious. "Are you Ms. Keisha Morton?" the older officer asked. "Yes." "We received a report concerning possible domestic abuse and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. We need to speak with you." I blinked, stunned. "A vulnerable who? I live alone." The younger officer's gaze swept over my bruised face, the one I'd gotten earlier in the confrontation with my son, before the truth started unraveling. And realization slammed into me so fast I nearly choked. My daughter-in-law, she called them. She reported me. She flipped the narrative. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. My son stepped forward. "Sir, there's been a misunderstanding. My wife." The older officer lifted a hand. "We'll speak with you shortly, sir. First, we need to assess Ms. Morton's safety and decision-making capacity." I almost burst into hysterics. Decision-making capacity? She had made me look mentally incompetent. My brother bristled. "This is ridiculous. She's the one who's been threatened." The officer ignored him politely. "Ma'am, have you recently signed any documents under pressure? Has anyone in this home influenced your finances?" I stared at him.
My daughter-in-law wasn't trying to just ruin me. She was trying to build a case that I wasn't mentally stable, that I couldn't manage my life, that I needed to be placed. My chest tightened painfully, but I forced my voice to stay even. I haven't signed anything. All the financial harm being done is coming from my daughter-in-law. She stole money, forged my name on loan documents, and the younger officer asked, "Do you have proof?" My niece rushed over, holding the envelope. "We have copies. We found them in the mailbox. She left them as a threat." The older officer flipped through the papers. His eyes narrowed. "These look like real documents. Did you sign these?" "No," I said firmly. "She forged them." He studied me deeper, searching for cracks. "And you're certain?" I held his gaze. "Very." My son stepped closer. "Sir, please, my wife has been manipulating everything for months. Last night, she stole over $40,000 from our accounts and left threatening messages." The officers exchanged a look. Not disbelief, but recognition. Like they'd seen this kind of twisted game before. "All right," the older officer said. "Let's continue this inside." We all moved to the living room. The officers asked their questions, took notes, photographed the envelope, and listened to every detail we offered. They even asked for my daughter-in-law's phone number. My son gave it to them with shaking hands. After almost an hour, the older officer sighed. "Ma'am, based on everything you've explained, it appears someone is attempting to stage a narrative about your mental or financial capacity, but the forged documents are strong evidence in your favor. We'll file a report." Relief washed through the room, but it was short-lived. However, he added carefully, "You need to understand something. If she's this far ahead, she might have already contacted Adult Protective Services. If she claims you can't manage your affairs or are being abused, they may follow up." My stomach dropped. My daughter-in-law wasn't playing checkers. She was playing three-dimensional chess, and she was ahead. After the officers left, my son slammed both fists on the kitchen counter. "I can't take this. I can't watching her go after you like this. I need to stop her. I need to go to her job, her mother's house, whoever will listen. I need to—" "No," I said sharply. He whipped around, shocked. "Sit. Now." He sat like he was 6 years old again. I leaned forward, gripping his hands. "Listen to me. You can't beat someone like her by reacting. That's what she wants. Every time you respond in anger, she wins. You need to stay calm and let her reveal her hand." He swallowed tightly. "But she already has. Mom, she ruined everything." "No," I said softly. "She thinks she has." My niece chimed in. "Auntie, what are you thinking?" I took a breath. She's impulsive. She moves too fast when she thinks she's invincible. And people like that always leave a trail. My brother nodded. "So what's the next move?" "We go to the bank. Then we go to the credit bureau. Then we get a lawyer. And while we handle things the right way," I glanced out the window. "We let her make her next mistake. Because she would. People consumed by malice always do. But when we reached the bank an hour later, I learned something that made my stomach twist into knots. The manager pulled us into his office, pale and nervous. "Ms. Morton, you're on our watch list." I frowned. "For what?" He slid a printed notice across the desk. "Your daughter-in-law reported suspicious activity on your accounts. She claimed you were being financially exploited and that any upcoming withdrawals or changes were invalid unless she was present." My son surged to his feet. "She what?" The manager raised his hands. "I didn't act on it because it seemed off, but she filed it with the bank's corporate office. I felt the world tilt. She was building a cage around me, brick by brick, lie by lie, institution by institution. The manager cleared his throat. There's more. She also attempted to change the beneficiary on your life insurance policy yesterday. My breath left my body like someone had punched me. My son looked at me. That's it, he whispered. She's trying to erase you. He was right, but I wasn't going to let her. I want to freeze every account, I said, immediately. And I want fraud alerts on all loans, credit files, and insurance policies. The manager nodded and began typing. But just as relief began to creep into my chest, my niece, standing near the lobby window, suddenly gasped. "Oh my God!" "What?" my brother asked, rushing to her side. She pointed out the window. Across the parking lot, my daughter-in-law stood by her car, smiling, holding her phone again. But this time, she wasn't filming. She was on a video call with someone inside the bank, someone watching us. And before any of us could move, the manager's phone rang. He answered, his face drained of all color. He whispered, "It's her." And as he slowly handed the phone to me, my blood ran cold because I already knew. Her voice would be waiting on the other end, ready for her next move.
The bank manager's trembling fingers handed me the phone as though it were a live explosive. My palm felt cold and slick against the smooth plastic. I lifted it slowly, pressing it to my ear, every instinct inside me screaming that nothing good waited on the other side. And then, her voice spilled through the line. Silky, smug, venom dipped in honey. "Well, well, Mama Morton," my daughter-in-law purred. "I see you made it to the bank safely. Good. Saves me a lot of time." My jaw clenched. "What do you want?" she said. "A conversation. A civil, reasonable conversation. Because clearly you're confused and letting these people hype you up." "My accounts are frozen," I snapped. "Your theft is documented. The police have the forged paperwork. Whatever you think you're doing." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, sweetie, you really think this just started today? Please. I've been preparing for months. While you were baking pies for church folks and watching daytime TV, I was building a narrative. A strong one. One the banks, the insurance company, and social services already believe. My stomach twisted. The world around me felt suddenly smaller. "You're lying," I said. "No," she replied. "You just underestimated me." She paused for a beat, long enough to let the fear sink deeper, and then continued. "I called the bank before you even arrived. And guess what? If you freeze those accounts, I can easily tell them you're being influenced, or worse, coerced, by your own son." My son exploded beside me. "You evil!" I held my hand up sharply to silence him. He backed away, shaking with fury. "Why are you doing this?" I asked quietly. "For security, for stability, for my kids. You think I'm going to raise them in poverty while you sit on assets? You think I'm going to let your son waste money on your medical bills later? No, I'm planning the future." "You mean your future," I said. "Same thing." The chill in her voice was beyond anything I'd imagined. My throat tightened. "What's your end game?" I whispered. "I'm offering you a choice," she said, her voice brightening unnervingly. "You sign over partial control of your estate. Not all, just enough so I can manage things properly. In return, I'll stop the reports. The banks will release your money. The forged loans, I'll make them disappear." I stared at the manager, who watched me in horror.
You want me to hand you power? I breathed. I want you to do the smart thing, she corrected. But if you refuse, well, more reports will get filed, more claims, more proof of your declining condition. Pretty soon, the state will appoint me or someone else as your guardian. My blood iced over. This wasn't just about money. She wanted control over my life. You think the system will believe you? I whispered. Oh, honey, she said softly. They already do. I felt myself sway, and my brother caught my arm to steady me. Then her voice sharpened. I'm giving you until midnight to call me and agree. If you don't, she paused. I'll move on to plan B. And what's plan B? I asked. Let's just say it involves some unexpected witnesses claiming you hit me, harmed the kids, maybe threatened violence. Enough to get you evaluated, maybe held for observation, just for your safety. My knees nearly buckled. My son roared, You're lying. No one will believe that. She clicked her tongue. People believe victims, sweetheart, and I'm very good at crying. Then the line went dead. Silence dropped over the manager's office like a heavy curtain. My brother whispered, This woman is unhinged. My son collapsed into a chair, his face buried in his hands. My niece grabbed my shoulders. Auntie, we have to fight her. We have to fight this. I nodded slowly, breathing through the panic burning in my chest. We will, I said, but we have to be smarter than her. The bank manager finally found his voice. Ms. Morton, I'm so sorry. I had no idea it was this serious. It's not your fault, I said gently. This is all her. He swallowed. For what it's worth, your accounts are frozen now. She can't drain anything else. That was something. Not enough, but something. We left the bank with the weight of 3 battles ahead of us, the financial war, the legal war, and the war to protect my mind, my autonomy from her lies. But the moment we stepped outside, I stopped dead in my tracks, because across the parking lot where her car had been earlier stood a different vehicle, a black sedan, government plates, and a woman in a navy blazer was waiting beside it, clipboard in hand, watching me. As soon as our eyes met, she approached with practiced calm. Miss Keisha Morton. Yes? She produced a badge. Linda Graves, Adult Protective Services. We received a report regarding your safety and mental competence. I need to ask you a few questions. My son shouted, Are you serious? She just called the police earlier. This is all her. But the woman remained politely expressionless. I'm just here to follow protocol. If you have evidence of harassment or fraud, you can share that with me. But I do need to complete the wellness check. My heart slammed against my ribs. My daughter-in-law was moving faster than we could keep up. Too fast. Ma'am, I said softly, forcing my voice to stay steady, we can give you everything, but first, please tell me something. She tilted her head. Yes? When exactly was this report filed? She checked her notes. Last night. Around midnight? My breath caught. Midnight. That was before she stormed out, before the confrontation, before the police came. She filed the report before everything, because she had planned this all along, ahead of every step. My knees trembled. My brother squeezed my shoulder. My son stood in front of me like a shield. My niece hovered nearby, eyes bright with unshed tears. The APS worker flipped another page on her clipboard. We were also informed you might be a danger to yourself and others. I felt the room tilt. What? I whispered. My niece gasped. She's setting you up to be committed. My son growled. Over my dead body. But the APS worker raised her hand. No decisions are being made today. I just need to evaluate the situation. All parties will be heard. Her voice was firm, but neutral. Protocol, procedure. She wasn't an enemy yet.
But before she could ask the next question, her phone chimed. She read the notification. Her eyebrows rose. "Another report just came through," she said slowly. "A serious one." I felt myself stop breathing. She looked at me with something like alarm. "The report says you threatened to harm your daughter-in-law and her children?" My son erupted. "She's lying! That never happened!" But the worker wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me, studying me, assessing me, evaluating me, whether I was a threat. And in that moment, I realized something chilling. My daughter-in-law didn't need to break into my house, poison my food, or corner me in a dark alley. She was trying to destroy me with paperwork, with reports, with fabricated systems. She was weaponizing the system to trap me in a cage I couldn't break. I straightened my spine, locking eyes with the APS worker. "Ma'am," I said, my voice shaking but unbroken, "I promise you, I'm not the danger." She studied me for several long seconds. Then she spoke. "Well, someone is." She closed her clipboard. "I need to determine who." The breath around me thickened, but as she opened her mouth to ask her next question, her radio crackled suddenly. A voice shouted through it, "Unit 4, respond immediately. Possible domestic disturbance involving..." Static swallowed the rest. The APS worker stiffened. "That's your address," she said quietly. My blood ran cold. My son grabbed my arm. "Mom, she's already there." I gasped. "What?" The APS worker's radio crackled again. "Address on file reports screaming inside the home. Possible injury. Units responding now." My daughter-in-law wasn't across the street anymore. She was inside my home, waiting. And whatever she was doing, she was framing me for it.
The APS worker's eyes snapped toward me, wide with recognition and urgency. "That's your house," she repeated, confirming the dread already clawing at my throat. My son didn't wait for explanation. He spun toward our car so fast his shoes scraped the pavement. "Get in, now!" My brother rushed behind him, helping me move even though my legs felt like wet sand. My niece grabbed my purse and keys. The APS worker followed us, speaking urgently into her radio. "Confirmed dispatch, this is APS Officer Graves. I am en route with the primary subject and family. Do not engage until I arrive. Do you copy?" Static. Then, "Copy. Units approaching scene." Approaching scene. My house, my safe space, was about to be treated like a crime scene. My stomach knotted violently. I slid into the back seat as my son revved the engine with shaking hands. "She's framing you, Mom. She's doing something inside that house." We peeled out of the parking lot. The APS worker followed in her black sedan, lights flashing but siren off. The closer we drove, the more surreal everything became. The flashing red and blue lights bouncing off nearby houses, the cluster of neighbors standing on lawns in their robes, the 2 police cars already parked at the curb. "Jesus," my brother muttered. "She moved fast. Too fast." My heart thundered painfully against my ribs. As we pulled up, I saw an ambulance idling near my mailbox. Empty. Lights spinning silently. My niece whispered, "Oh God, she staged something medical." Before any of us could move, 2 officers broke away from the crowd and walked toward us with controlled, neutral expressions. "Ma'am, we need you to stay back for a moment while we secure the interior." "I live here," I cried. "What's happening inside?" They didn't answer. But then the APS worker pulled up, flashed her badge, and moved between us and the officers. "She's with me. I need to know what you found." Both officers hesitated. Then one gestured toward the open front door of my home.
We entered after hearing a child screaming. We found her daughter-in-law inside. She was crying and holding her arm, said she fell during an argument. Argument with who? My son barked. The officer's eyes flicked to me. She claims her mother-in-law shoved her and locked her out, claims she came back for the children. I was at the bank with 4 witnesses. The officer held up a calming hand. Miss Morton, please let her finish. My daughter-in-law sniffled, hugging herself. She came home early. She was angry. She kept saying I was ruining her family. I tried to leave, but she grabbed me. That is a lie, I shouted so loudly my voice cracked. I have been with these people all day. Graves raised a hand. Miss Morton, please let her finish. My daughter-in-law dabbed her eyes. She had practiced this. I didn't want to call anyone, but when she shoved me, I fell into the counter. I thought I broke my arm. The kids started screaming. I ran. Where are the kids? My niece demanded. The daughter-in-law blinked, slow and rehearsed. They're with the neighbors. I didn't want them near this. My son lunged, but my brother held him back. APS Officer Graves finally turned. Ma'am, I need your clarification. Did you enter this home at any point since the initial police call? No, I whispered, fighting tears. I did not touch her. I wasn't even near here. She scribbled something on her clipboard. But then something happened that none of us expected. A voice shouted from the right side of the yard. I saw everything. Everyone turned sharply. The elderly man from across the street, Mr. Halpern, was hobbling toward the crowd with his cane raised like a sword. He pointed directly at my daughter-in-law. You lying brat. I watched you park your car, walk into that house normal, then come out 10 minutes later screaming like you were being murdered. Her face drained of color. And then, he said, turning to the officers, she then went inside, slammed herself into the counter, and started yelling louder so the whole damn street could hear it. The officers froze. The APS worker froze. My daughter-in-law's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. But the old man wasn't finished. I've been on this street for 40 years. I know real danger when I see it. And she is the danger, not that woman. He pointed at me. My son exhaled shakily. My niece started crying. My brother whispered, "Thank God." But the APS worker raised her hand sharply. Sir, are you willing to issue a formal statement? Willing, he barked. I'll write it in blood if I have to. My daughter-in-law suddenly let out a hysterical sob. Why are you doing this to me? Why is everyone against me? Officer Graves stared at her, really stared. And for the first time, doubt entered her expression. Real doubt. We will need to reevaluate based on this witness. My daughter-in-law backed away, breath coming fast, eyes darting, cornered, panicking, calculating her next move. And then she bolted, turned on her heel, and sprinted through my front door. My son shouted, "Hey, get back here!" 2 officers ran in after her. The APS worker followed. My brother grabbed my arm. "Stay here," he warned. "She's desperate now." My daughter-in-law was trapped in my home. And desperate people don't think. They react. Scream broke out inside. Something crashed. Another scream. Then an officer shouted, "Drop it! Drop the knife!" My heart stopped. My son tried to run toward the front door, but this time, no one could hold him back.
The shout, "Drop the knife," ripped through the air like a gunshot. My son sprinted into the house before anyone could stop him. My brother and I ran after him, but the APS worker grabbed my arm. "Ma'am, stay back. Let us handle..." But I tore free. It was my house, my family, my life under attack. I ran inside. The scene in my living room stopped me cold. My daughter-in-law stood in the center of the room, hair wild, chest heaving, clutching one of my kitchen knives so tightly her knuckles had turned bone white. Her eyes were no longer calculating. They were deranged. 2 police officers stood between her and my son, guns drawn but angled downward, trying not to escalate the situation. "Ma'am," one officer said slowly, "we don't want to hurt you. Please put the knife down." She shook her head violently. No, you don't understand," she screamed. "None of this was supposed to happen. She was supposed to leave quietly, like people like her do." My son stepped forward, voice shaking. "What do you mean, people like her?" She laughed, a broken, hysterical laugh. "She's weak. She was always weak. One shove and she bruises like fruit. I thought she'd run, cry, and disappear. But you," she pointed the knife at my son, "you had to make it worse." My son looked sick. He whispered, "You planned this. All of this." She snarled, "Yes, I planned it because your mother wanted to take back her home, because she wanted respect, because she wanted to make decisions. She was becoming a problem." Her words stabbed deeper than any knife could. The APS worker stepped forward carefully, palms raised. "Put the knife down. We can talk about everything you're feeling." "No," she shrieked. "If I go down, she goes down with me. She ruined everything." She pointed the knife at me. My son moved instantly, stepping in front of me. That was when she snapped completely. She lunged, not at him, not at me, at the officer closest to her, trying to break through their formation. The officer grabbed her wrist mid-swing, twisting sharply. The knife clattered to the ground just as she let out a violent scream. The second officer tackled her, pinning her to the floor as she thrashed like a wild animal. "You don't know what she did," she sobbed. "You don't know what she said. She deserves everything she gets." The officer cuffed her, breath tight with effort. "You need to stop," he told her firmly. "It's over." But she kept screaming, venomous, incoherent, furious. The words blurred together until one sentence rose above all of them. "This was supposed to be easy." And then one more, one that made everyone freeze. "She wasn't supposed to survive." A chilling silence swallowed the room. My son's face crumpled. My knees buckled. My brother caught me before I hit the floor. The APS worker inhaled sharply. "That changes everything," she whispered. The officers lifted my daughter-in-law to her feet. She stopped struggling only when she realized the neighbors had gathered just outside the door, phones recording, eyes wide, judgment absolute. Her twisted mask of rage collapsed into pitiful sobbing. I didn't mean, she pushed me too far." But it was too late. The officers dragged her outside. The last thing I heard before the door shut behind them was her voice turning shrill. "It wasn't all me. He helped. He started it." Her finger pointed straight at my son. He froze in place. Everyone stared at him, and in that moment, he didn't look like the fiery protector who stood between me and danger. He looked guilty, haunted, like a man cornered by the truth. I touched his arm gently. He flinched. "Son," I whispered. "What are you talking about?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat worked around words that refused to come. And then the APS worker stepped closer, her voice steady, but cautious. "Sir, I'm going to need to ask you something directly." He swallowed. She lifted her clipboard, eyes locking onto his. "Before today, before all this, did you ever put your hands on your mother?" The room stilled. My son closed his eyes. And the answer that came wasn't a word. It was a tear slipping down his cheek. A single tear that told the truth louder than any confession. That was the moment I realized. The woman who tried to destroy my life didn't act alone.
The house felt too quiet once the police car pulled away, leaving only the echo of my daughter-in-law's screams trapped in the walls. The neighbors drifted back to their homes. The APS worker stepped outside to make phone calls. My brother hovered near the doorway, keeping watch like danger might still seep in through the cracks. But my son, he stood in the center of the room, staring at the spot where the knife had landed. His hands trembled at his sides, shoulders slumped, face hollowed out like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. I took a slow breath, steadying myself before stepping toward him. "Son," I said gently, "look at me." He didn't. His eyes stayed glued to the floor. My brother shifted uneasily. "Maybe we should give him a minute." "No," I said quietly. "There are some things a mother can't wait to hear." My son finally lifted his gaze, and the guilt in his expression almost buckled my knees. "Mom, I didn't mean for any of this to go that far." My throat tightened, but I kept my voice steady. "Did you lay your hands on me? Tell me the truth." Tears pooled in his eyes. "I pushed you once, just once. I swear I never meant to hurt you. I just lost my temper. Shanice said you were trying to control us, trying to make me look weak. And I believed her. I let her talk me into it." My brother stepped forward. "That bruise on her face didn't come from a damn push." My son dragged a shaky hand across his eyes. "No. The bruise, that was her. She said we needed something dramatic, something to embarrass you into signing the house over. I tried to stop her, but she swung before I could do anything. I froze. I didn't defend you. I didn't get between you two. I swallowed hard. I didn't protect you." His confession was a blade twisting inside me. But even sharper was the realization that he wasn't lying. He wasn't excusing. He wasn't shifting blame. He was owning what he'd done. My voice cracked. "Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you say something?" "Because I was ashamed. Because I knew you deserved better than a son who let his wife turn him against his own mother. Because every time I looked at you after that, I couldn't stand what I'd become." Silence settled thick and heavy in the room. The APS worker re-entered quietly, glancing between us with soft, careful eyes. "I spoke with the officers," she said. "Your daughter-in-law will be charged with aggravated assault, attempted homicide, forgery, and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult." My son flinched. "And you," she added gently, "will need to give a statement as well." He nodded, defeated. "I know." She stepped closer. "But before that, I need to know, are you a danger to your mother?" He shook his head violently. "No, God, no. I would never hurt her again." The APS worker nodded once. "Then it's your mother's choice how to proceed." She left us alone again. My son turned toward me, face wet. "Mom, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. I'll go to counseling, sign whatever you need, move out, turn myself in. Just please don't hate me." I stepped closer. He stiffened, expecting anger. Instead, I placed my hand over his heart. "Baby, I carried you. I raised you. I loved you before the world even knew your name. I don't hate you, but I am hurt, and healing takes time." His breath broke. "But here's what I know. You told the truth.
You came back inside to protect me, and you're standing here now, not running from what you did. That matters." He covered my hand with his own. "I'm so sorry, Mom." For the first time in months, I saw the little boy I used to hold, the one who would run home crying if someone hurt his feelings, the one who used to say he'd build me a big house one day so I'd never worry again. Somewhere along the road he lost himself, but maybe, just maybe, this was where he found his way back. My brother cleared his throat. "APS and the cops are handling things, but we need to get you checked out, sis. That bruise still looks bad." I nodded. "I'll go." My son stepped forward quickly. "I'll take her." My brother bristled, protective, but I shook my head. "No," I said firmly, "he needs to." It wasn't about trust. It was about accountability, about letting him walk the first of many hard steps. We drove to the hospital in a heavy silence. When the doctor finished examining me, confirming I had no fractures, only deep bruising, I stepped into the hallway and found my son sitting with his head in his hands. He looked up when he heard me. "Mom, they want me to give a full statement about everything, about what she planned, about what I allowed." His voice trembled. "I'm scared." "I know," I said softly, "but this is the moment you reclaim your life. Tell the truth, all of it. Not to protect her, not to fix what's broken, but to free yourself from it." His breath steadied. "Will you wait for me?" "I'll be right here." He gave his statement. Every word, every detail. He didn't sugarcoat anything. When he finished, he walked toward me with a strange mix of exhaustion and relief, like a man finally exhaling after holding his breath for years. We drove home slowly, the weight between us lighter now, even if the road ahead was long. That night, when I finally laid down in my own bed, the house felt different, quieter, safer, mine again. I realized something important. Survival isn't just about escaping danger. It's also about reclaiming your voice, your space, your power, even when the betrayal comes from the people you love most all. And as morning light crept across my bedroom walls, warming the room with soft gold, I whispered a quiet promise to myself. This is my new beginning. I will not let fear define me. I will not let betrayal break me. I will rise, and I will rebuild. If you learned something new from my life story, please like this video, subscribe for more stories like mine, and comment down below where you're watching this video from. I'd truly love to know.